All right, guys. So we're kind of working on this project. I don't want to call it a packet because this is a high scoring project. But what I've done is I've gotten a large sheet of paper. This is 18 inches by 24 inches, our biggest drawing paper. And so that's 2 feet. And what we've done is we folded it into fourths. And in one quadrant, we're drawing our toy snowman. So we're moving towards our drawing of a toy. And I want to give you another practice drawing that'll help you score an A. If you want to earn an A, then let's really pay attention to this drawing. So you can see I've folded my paper down to where I just see 1/4. Here's one page, here's another. And we're going to draw this caterpillar. And it doesn't have to take up a full page. So you can divide this page in half. And again, to slow down and sort of orientate you, I've got this 18-inch, which is 1.5 feet by 24-inch paper. It's folded into fourths. In 1/4, I've drawn my toy snowman. And now, in a smaller section, I'm going to draw this caterpillar. And now that you're orientated to the page, I'll fold it back again so it's not visually distracting. All right, there we are. And let's take a moment and look at what we're going to draw. We're going to draw this caterpillar, and the objective of the assignment is to practice ways to make things look like toys. What's kind of brilliant about this little drawing is that it is just really 5 circles. So fundamentally, we're going to draw 5 circles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to decorate them like toys. And these are all things then you can use in your project. So let's get started. So I'm going to set this aside. I've got my little quarter piece of paper, and I'm going to draw 5 circles, which is an odd number, not an even number. So I'm going to start from the middle and work my way out. So if I start from the middle and then draw 2 more circles, and now I'm going to go back to the middle and draw 2 more circles. That allows me to kind of get 5 circles centered. And I'm using that loose circular motion. They're overlapping because I want them to feel connected. And they're imperfect. They're a toy. So it doesn't have to be this sort of perfect, manufactured look. All right, so here's the start of my caterpillar. And quite simply, let's start with this creature. It's always nice to start with the head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a mouth. I'm just going to divide it all the way across. I'm going to kind of lightly sketch a line across. And remember, just like our worms, like the cross contour line hand that we did, when I curve things, they look round. This should become familiar. Remember when we shade, we curve our shading on a sphere. And so this is staying consistent. So here I am. I'm curving my mouth line. And I'm going to lightly sketch a curved line that goes off center. And what I'm going to imagine this line is, this might be like if the caterpillar had a nose. This is sort of what we call the center line of the face, a center line that we've turned. And I'm going to draw a nice big eye. And watch this. On this edge, I'm just going to draw like the bulging eye, and that's going to really help turn this object. So now there's not too many more details to put into this object, but watch this. What I'm going to do is right now I have a smooth line. And when our eye sees a smooth line, we assume it's smooth. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bump in right at that line and then bump out. And that disruption makes the brain think, oh, it must be three-dimensional. See, so I've gone to this line, and right when I get to the mouth, I'm kind of pulling in, and that makes it look like its own shape, almost like if I could, a hamburger bun. And now I'm going to go in and pop out and draw the other half. So that starts making this look more three-dimensional. So think about that. Smooth lines create objects that look smooth. And if I'm trying to sort of make something look bumpy or separated, when I put a bump in my line, that'll help kind of create that illusion. So now I'm sort of finishing up my curve, polishing up, and even on this side, here I am, and right now it's smooth. I'm just going to pinch in, pinch out. Again, think of a hamburger bun. Now, there's a lot of ways to sort of show stitching in a toy. So let's look at this one. We're just going to do little X's. Like someone took a needle and just sort of sewed these together. All right. And I'm going to darken my eyes a little bit. And quite simply, I've already started drawing my toy caterpillar. Then, taking advantage of this curve, I'm going to just put in a little bit of a form shadow. And again, the shadow should reflect the shape or the form of the object. This object is a sphere, and so look how curved. I'm almost just going diagonally across to create that curve. And then this is on top. I'm going to just put a little cast shadow. There we go. And we'll come back and add antenna later. You can do little springy lines or straight antenna, but we'll add those in a minute. Let's go ahead and continue on with our next circle. Our next circle, it's going to be kind of fun. Again, in our sort of curved worms line, these lines have a name. They're actually called cross contour lines. I'm going to draw a curving line kind of up and down, and I'm going to repeat that little trick. If I were to just draw the circle smooth, it seems smooth. But instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start tracing the circle, but I'm going to dip in. And now I'm about to intersect my line here. And when I do, I'm just going to pinch in to meet it. Just a little pinch, just making it a less perfect circle. And now pinch in and go out. And again, as a result, it looks like two shapes that have been sewn together. And that's pretty cool. That makes things look more like a toy that's been sewn together. And this time, I'm just going to do little ovals to make it look like yarn or thread stitching it together. And what I mean is just across this seam, because I want my thread to connect them, right? That's what you do when you're sewing, is you're connecting two pieces. And I'm just going to draw little pieces that might look like rice, little ovals. And that just stitches it together. This almost looks like a baseball stitch. So there we go. Now, I have my highlight here in my form shadow on the left side. So I'm going to repeat that. I want to repeat sort of my light decisions. And the more I repeat them, the more effective it will look. It's like a drum beat. If you drum once or twice, that's good. But if you drum over and over, it's how we create a rhythm in music. It's the same thing in drawing. If I shade in one direction once, that's good. But if I shade in that direction twice, it becomes an illusion. 3 times, more effective. 4 times, 5 times. And in fact, we can improve this a little bit. Highlight, form shadow. You know what I forgot? Our cast shadow. Let's just tuck in a little cast shadow. And our cast shadow is darkest right at the foot, and it can fade out. And same here. I'm going to cast a little oval here. And again, a cast shadow is darkest right at the foot, right at where the object blocks 100% of light. And then it's still casting a shadow, but light starts bouncing around and softening it. So right here, where the object meets the shadow, is the darkest. It actually has a name. It's called an occlusion shadow. So in our cast shadow, right there. And it really does make your cast shadows look even more realistic. Look how that's already coming together. All right, next circle. We're going to make it look furry. So I'll show you this. And here's a very simple idea. If you have a smooth line, it's going to look smooth. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an edge that's broken and open and rough. And in many ways, that's how you could describe fur. So here I've got this circle drawn. And what I want to do is, instead of just drawing a line, I want to draw scribbles. So scribble, scribble, lift my pencil, scribble, lift my pencil. I don't want it to just all be one line. I want it to be all these broken up. And once you get that feel, you can kind of scribble, lift, move your pencil around. And it's a really simple idea. Smooth line, our eye thinks it's smooth. Rough line, our eye thinks it's rough. And so we'll zoom in just a little bit more. And now something we can do is we can do our shading. So again, here's my highlight to my gray. So I'm curving my shading. But because it's on fur, it can be a little rougher. Look, I'm going to do kind of I'm moving my hand and my pencil tip so you can see a texture. See how rough and unsmooth that is? And that's going to look more like fur. This is when this comes into play. I've been emphasizing having this smooth, perfect shading. And this is why when I want something to look smooth, I need to be able to use that smooth technique. And then when I want something to look rough or furry, then my shading can be rough. Great. So we've got the sphere that looks like it's rough. And we are going to draw a key on it, but let's save that for last. So we'll do some of these details last. Okay, our next sphere. Let's go ahead now and basically repeat this one. We're going to just draw a sphere. We're going to put a curve on it. But this time, rather than stitching it, we're going to use buttons to connect it. And so here's my circle. I'm going to draw my curved line. I'm doing it lightly because on top of it, I'm going to draw 2 circles. Button 1, button 2. 2 simple circles. Again, because I want it to feel like 2 separate objects I've connected, I'm going to trace my circle, but right at this line, this contour, I'm going to dip in. See how I've not just made it smooth, but I dip in. Now I'm drawing my circle. And dip in. And now I'm going to draw the other half. And again, it looks a little bit like a hamburger bun or an acorn shell, where there's really these 2 separate shapes. All right, now I'm going to do 2 stitches across. So in the shape of an X, and I'm going to use this sort of rice piece. And let me just show you a sample, and then we'll draw it. So what I mean is I'm going to use the shape of the rice, an oval, and then an oval. And I'm just going to put them in an X, and it's going to look like thread holding a button. So I'm going to do my first piece of rice, or my first stitch. And then behind it, I'm going to put another one. I'm going to start it, let the other one overlap it, and finish it out. So stitch 1, and then underneath it, stitch 2. Now, right now my buttons look so flat. They're just described by one line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just run a little parallel line right behind it, and suddenly my button looks thicker. And I'll do that here. Here's my circle, and I'm just going to, on one half of it, just show a little thickness, and suddenly it looks like the thickness of a button. And now same thing, I'm going to repeat my shading. So here's my highlight, because my light consistently is coming from the right. That's what I chose. I'm going to do my form shadow. So now I'm getting highlight, form shadow, and I'm laying in my soft gray with a feathery edge. And then I am darkening up. And then I've got highlight, form shadow, cast shadow. And I'm getting that dark shadow right close. And I forgot it here. It's always hard with the rougher edge, but I'm going to sort of work my cast shadow into it and then fade out. And then as we get to the end of our caterpillar, we're going to do another curved line. So I'm going to curve, but I'll curve it across this way. And then with a little overlapping, I'm going to create a tag. That's a classic toy element. And our stitching is just going to be a dotted line. All right, so here's my sphere. And I'm going to do, again, curved. It's funny because our brain likes us to be efficient, and drawing curves takes some energy. So people strangely have a hard time committing to really curving their lines. So there's my curve. And before I get anything too dark, watch this. I'm going to start here, and I'm going to draw like a tear shape, like the shape of when you cry and it's a tear. And the thin part's going to be here, just going to balloon up and come down. So nothing tricky, sort of just a simple loop. I start here, loop outward, come back to where I started. Now, to make it look like a tag, I'm going to draw a straight line here. And if you notice this curve here, see how this is curving? I'm going to try to match it exactly. And then it's sewn into the seam. And it might help my illusion a little bit if I erase what's behind it. So now it's overlapping, so I don't want this part to be visible to the eye. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and just finish my circle. And this time, we're just doing like a stitch, like a sewing machine oftentimes makes this kind of stitch. Let's go ahead and finish up our shading here. So again, I'm going to give that curved shape. So I'm going to lay in a soft gray that's curved. And then inside of that, I'm going to feather in my darker gray, which also curves. So I've created a highlight, curving form shadow. So I need my cast shadow, highlight, form shadow, cast shadow. Kind of our mantra. And let's play with some other things. As this tucks in, I think it's going to tuck in and tuck away from the light. So I'm going to shade that. And I'm going to shade the inside loop. It's probably blocked from light. And we've really got a lot drawn on this. This does look like a fun little toy. Let's go ahead now and try to draw the key. So my idea here is this is a little wind-up key, which might play music if you turn it. And it's a slightly complex form. So here's the trick. Artists always start simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just lightly draw the stem and lightly draw across it. See how this almost could be the world's simplest key? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start building on that. I'm going to turn this to, I'm going to draw 2 circles, just lightly sketching them, not perfect yet. And I'm going to thicken up my key. And now I'm going to put the inside circle. And then I'm just going to kind of connect these. And that's a secret to drawing, is you don't have to draw things perfectly. So let's go ahead now that we've got this lightly sketched out. And you can always keep improving your sketch as you refine it. And we're going to do the same thing. See how when we did the 2 lines for the buttons, it makes it thick? I'm going to put an extra line inside the key, and it's going to make the key look thicker. I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. I'm just going to draw a parallel line. And now my key looks like it has some thickness. Then I'm going to shade this like a cylinder. Maybe I'll darken that so you can tell it's in the back. And the last detail is to put our antennas on. And that's just a creative touch. So there's certainly no rules around it. I think I'm going to do just little springs. You could do wires, whatever your creativity tells you. Who knows? Maybe I'm just going to do straight lines. I'm going to do a curving line and a curving line. And then I'm just going to put a little detail on them. Ooh, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little cast shadow, darkest right here. I'm going to let it fade out. And that's going to make it look just that little more 3D. All right, let's bring this drawing to a close. So what you end up here is with all these different techniques. Disjointing the edge a little bit makes it look like two shapes. And you know how to draw that. If I asked you to draw a hamburger bun, you would instantly sort of be drawn to this technique because you know them as two different shapes. So then different kinds of stitching, whether it's little X's, little pieces of rice. We've been doing our shading smooth, and the reason why is because now if you do a scribble and have a rough edge in rough shading, you can make something look rough or furry. Here you are, and you can use buttons to connect things. You can add a little tag. And I'll finish with the world's simplest 3D technique of just having it overlap the horizon. It is funny. Our mind thinks, oh my gosh, if there's a horizon line, it must be in real space. And so that was a good one. And if you want to really kind of make this a cute finished drawing, you can shade the background. All right, guys, I would love to see some of these ideas and techniques in your final toy drawing. Thanks so much, guys. Take a look